Hello there, pals. Just me. Feel free to skip ahead 30 seconds to the episode proper if you like. But before we begin, I just wanted to quickly say that we're genuinely ever so grateful to everyone who has left us a nice review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and wherever else it is that you can do, stuff like that. In the show notes for this episode, we've gone ahead and thanked you all individually because it's just amazing. And you might remember me saying before that I can't really believe that we're lucky enough to have anyone listening to us. But seeing your really kind reviews makes us all feel pretty special, and like what we do is, I don't know, like it's good or useful in some way. So yes, I'll stop taking up your time now, but just, thanks again.
Avengers Endgame, Canopy Stars, and Guard Duty. This is Staying In.
Okay, so I spent my bank holiday weekend in a yurt. Have any of you ever stayed in a yurt?
No, but my brother is having a wedding in a yurt next year.
I hope it's a lot bigger than the one I stayed in.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. The one I stayed in was like... could fit maybe 2 people.
So, Alix, you stayed in a yurt?
So I did quite a lot of glamping, if that's what you're referring to.
Did you use Canopy Stars by any chance?
Oh, I did. I used it so
fantastic.
much that I got a box sent through to me with tea and a hat and chocolate and stuff from them.
So you're like a club card member. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, how did they get my address?
So this is my first time with Canopy Stars. This organisation, they're like Airbnb for glamping, and I'd never stayed in a yurt before. I knew what they were. It's a tent that's like 3,000 years old in terms of its design, but it's fantastic. Like I had like a skylight above me. It's the only bit of natural light coming in, so you'd have the trees above and things, and a wood burner, and waking up every morning, taking in turns, getting out of bed, prepping the fire, getting that lit because it's so cold you can see your breath, making sure that's lit and keeping that fire going for the day, really, to warm up the place. Had a bathroom outside where the shower had 2 walls, and I was basically just showering outside facing nature. There's huge fields and the forest and things.
Yep, standard. Very nice.
And the bathroom, you know how sometimes flushing the toilet can be a bit of a chore? Well, don't worry.
No.
Don't worry.
No.
Just don't worry, Dan, because this toilet doesn't have one, doesn't have a flush. Have you ever used the long drop loo, Dan?
You can take my silence as a no.
No, yeah, it's an audio medium, so they can't see your face. But
Yeah.
Okay, picture this. Basically, it's like a toilet. It's like one of those privies you see in like medieval dramas and things, but a 12-foot deep pit. So if you drop anything down there, you're not getting it back. And no flushing. And can I say, for those who've never been glamping and they're worried about and squeamish about long drop toilets, absolutely fine. Not got anything to worry about. It was the poshest. It was posher than some actual toilets plumbed in I've ever been in.
Yeah, they're really posh.
Hang on.
No, they are.
I went to some toilets in Bali that had actual like computer screens next to the toilet on which I could pick how much the water would oscillate.
What?
And how much power it would give me, and on how forward I wanted the jets of water.
Yeah, I didn't have any electrics. Mine would have to be hand cranked with water from the stream. And it was awful because there's like candles in there, Dan. You've got candles everywhere and things. And I took with me, to make the place a little bit more romantic, I took these little LED like candle things I thought I'd decorate around the place, so the shower outside and stuff, so it looked really pretty and things. But I took a few into the long drop loo, and I accidentally dropped one down the toilet. Now, 12 foot, it's dark, you can't see anything usually, but your instinct when you drop something is to look down and look for it. And I'm never going to be able to unsee what that thing temporarily lit up. It was like a horror film. I don't know if you've seen Aquaman, with the flare going into the breach and all these like creatures around and things. Yeah, I can't unsee that, and the battery life is so good, Dan. It's still glowing there now, probably.
So you're saying that future people who will attend that long drop,
they're gonna lift up the toilet seat. It's gonna be like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Just gonna, any comments from now on are going to be like, lovely stay, glowing loo, not sure what it's about. Lights the way.
Kris. can't believe you left a little glowing glue.
What was I going to do? But
I love that you stuck your head down.
if I would have put my head down, I would have passed out.
It would have been like the scene from Train Spotting.
Oh, gosh.
Disappearing.
Oh, my gosh. But yeah, 12 foot down. But no, Canopy Stars, absolutely fantastic. My first time in a year, and I hope to go back there. One day we did nothing. We played cards for 5 hours and just watched the fire. And then 2 wasps came into the tent. We watched them as they tried to leave. It was just utter bliss where you've got nothing to do but just to focus on the bare essentials, food and warmth. And it was just
really
wonderful.
nice.
What cards were you playing?
We were playing. Now, my partner's from Slovakia, and she introduced me to a card game which involves 2 decks of cards being shuffled together.
Cool.
It's called Jolik, or Joker, it's called. Now, I played a game of Joker when I was a kid. Oh, he's got his big book, and it's got little post-it notes in it.
Games.
So I thought it was that game of the Joker where you have to pair up cards, and you're basically picking a card from the players next to you, and then you're trying to pair the cards you've got in your hand. And what you don't want to do is get accidentally past the Joker, because the person who's got the Joker left in their hand loses. But this is essentially a trick-taking game, a bit like Rummy Cub, where the Joker counts as a wild card, a bit like, I don't know if you've played Rummy Cub, or if you have, you probably haven't played it for a while, with the faces, which act as a wild. It's a bit like that, but with 2 decks of cards shuffled together. And we played that for 5 hours. And it's really, really addictive. Really addictive. It's got some really lovely balancing mechanics. And also, Sam, you'd appreciate it. There's a particular way in which you must shuffle the deck and deal out the deck and things. It feels really substantial for just what is a game of 2 decks of cards. And it made me realise how long it's been since I've actually played a game with a normal deck of cards. I don't generally do that these days. But with board games, which are shiny and sexy and colours and pictures and things, I think I forget sometimes that actually imagination is important. and actually you can do a lot with these 52. There's a reason cards are such a long-standing and almost ubiquitous and universal game. And yeah, Jolik I really, really enjoyed, or Joker.
I feel like glamping is one of those times where it almost kind of forces you to play cards in a way, because you
also
don't
to appreciate and enjoy something you may not necessarily enjoy if you're doing board game in the evening and somebody brings it out. But yeah, no, it's great.
I always find that I become fire master. Like I have to tend to the fire, like as you say, constantly, especially if it's winter.
Oh gosh, love it.
It's really good.
But it's amazing. I don't know if you probably know this as a black card member of Canopy Stars, Alix, but like
platinum.
Yeah, on most of the properties, and they've got yurts, they've got tents, they've got old railway carriages, they've also got tree houses, which I'm really excited about. I think my next one's going to be a tree house. But most of them say features as an essential. They have board games there. Yeah. Like in the yurt we were in, there was bananagrams and 3 decks of cards. They have kind of
the classic, really old ones, don't they? Like Scrabble and.
Well, we had Bagatelle.
What is that?
It's basically an old-fashioned pinball machine.
Ah, that's cool.
Where you don't have like a little spring, plunger which springs it up. You actually have to tilt it round.
Really old. But...
yeah, really old school. And we played darts as well. There was a dartboard. So yeah, it was like.
It's sounding a lot less like camping. This.
Well, it's glamping.
I know it's glamping, but where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Come on.
At which point does it become more glamour than camping?
The long drop loo, Dan.
It depends where you go, I think, because there's stages of glamp to camp where I think the glamp, there are ones seriously that cost thousands a night, which are massive castles, like tree house castles with swimming pools and stuff, or there's literally you stay in a tiny tent, you have to make the fire, you have to chop your own wood.
Yeah.
There's huge layers and levels. I quite like the middle from glamp to camp. I'm in that kind of... Although I'm going to one in a couple of months, Kris, which is completely off-grid. So there's no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. It's like a completely
Can I ask, is Pete going with you?
Nope. He wouldn't survive.
Pete off the grid.
He'd get there and be like, this is lovely. And then 2 minutes later be like... Oh my God, there's no internet.
He'll come out looking like Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy.
He'll have only been there 2 days, but it'll just taken such a terrible turn for him.
It's like Castaway.
My gosh. Yeah, but I felt like I was in some kind of Dothraki tent. I had sheepskin duvet, layers of sheepskin on the top to keep you warm. It's ridiculous. But yeah, we should do it. We should do it. We did the Euro trip. Let's do glamping.
Oh, glamping would be good. We could all get something pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
It's not very expensive.
Do a treehouse.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. That'd be incredible. Yeah, Canopy Stars. Cannot recommend them enough.
Future Kris here. Hello. Oh, this is a bit weird. On your left. Just to say that this next section of the pod has spoilers for Avengers Endgame. Now, I know most people have seen this by now, but you never know, because it's busy at the moment, isn't it, really? We've all been there. And it's going to be in the cinema for a while, so why go and see it now? Well, it's just so you can listen to this bit of the podcast, really. But if you don't want to know about spoilers for Avengers Endgame, that's absolutely fine. You'll just probably want to skip ahead 30 minutes or so, just to avoid those spoilers. So, once you've seen the film, feel free to come back and pick up where you left off. Anyway, let's crack on.
Are we
I'm so paranoid about mentioning it.
I know,
Are we
same.
talking? Can we like talk about it but not mention what it is, any of the actors in it, or characters, or anything that happens in it?
It's a film. There we go.
It is a film.
Next.
We're allowed to talk about it now. We're allowed to talk about it now.
Are we? Who said that?
The Russo brothers have said people can spoil it, but basically don't be dicks about it.
All right, okay.
They've said they're happy for people to kind of spoil it now, but just don't go around telling people who don't want to know.
like my nan.
I don't want to know.
Well, the thing is, there isn't really much to spoil. Not really.
Isn't there?
Well, I
I
wouldn't
think
want
there's
to.
a lot to spoil.
Yeah, I mean all
there's-
of it, really.
Well, what I mean is there's nothing I was like, what a twist about.
And also, have
Really?
you seen the new
No,
Spider-Man trailer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think everything, didn't play out exactly as I expected. The fundamental beats were there. I just maybe didn't know how they were gonna play out. But I wasn't surprised at like, oh my god, they came back. Of course they were.
I thought that was good.
There was no question about that.
Less people died than I thought would.
Well, let's just go around and just ask for like your favourite thing, and you can just do it in like a one word or one line, let's say, that people who've seen it will guess, but people haven't seen it.
That's good. I know mine.
That's hard.
I know mine. Finger.
Oh yeah, that's one of mine. Mine is on your left.
Cool. Yeah.
Damn it. On your left is pretty good. Worthy.
I feel like we're playing a game of code names here.
Fuck. That one's a good one. Fuck.
All of these are picked from the end of the film, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Bum. Oh, a great thing about bums, right? Okay. Kris and I went to go see Captain Marvel, right? And there was a bit in Captain Marvel where Carol Danvers says something along the lines of, is it Carol Danvers or is it her pilot buddy, who I can't remember the name of, because she wasn't given enough time as a character to develop. And someone says to one of the Skrulls, and if you carry on like that, I'm going to stick that where the sun don't shine. And a little kid out of nowhere in the screening went, she's talking about his bum.
It's like having cliff notes from a child.
It was the best. It was the best moment. It was brilliant.
It was the pilot friend. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Go on, Alix. What's your one word? So far, we've had finger. We've had worthy. We've had on your left.
Worthy finger bum is what we've had so far.
It's a worthy finger bum of a movie.
I don't know what's finger. I don't know what finger is.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, we
what's
don't
the
want to ruin it,
finger?
Dan.
Oh,
Chris, showing me your finger.
You know,
No, it's the way I did it.
Well, that's what he does.
It's the way I did it.
Yeah.
remember?
We'll do that. We'll do that to Dan.
Yeah.
We're all waving our hands in circular motions. That tells you what character had the finger. Ooh.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember?
And then, do you know? No.
That took me a bit actually to know what you were talking about.
I mean, the waving of the hands tells me what's happening.
Okay.
I don't
I've
remember
got-
the finger playing a
Alex,
major
don't-
part.
Don't ruin it.
That's the character.
Yeah.
Alix has just shown us a picture she made of Taco, her pet bunny rabbit, as Doctor Strange, which is, oh my god,
Sorcerer Supreme.
There's many others as well.
So go on, Alix. What's your non-finger worthy bum moment?
Worthy was pretty good. I don't know if I can put it into a word, but I literally cheered out loud. Portal.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
I mean, that was genuine goosebumps.
I'm in love with the Black Panther universe, like that world. So when the Wakandans are involved, I was like, I think they're awesome. They're just, I love it. That's the next thing I'm looking forward to is Black Panther 2.
I had kind of one major problem with it that I still can't really get over, and I think this could be another one of those things where most people really like this, and I just can't get on board with it. And that's Fat Thor.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, so
Really?
good.
No,
So
I
good.
really struggled with it. I really didn't like it. I had no problem with him being overweight of some sort, of being drunk, of really struggling, but he was depressed and kind of let go of himself, and he was played for laughs, and I really didn't like that.
I think I agree, except that moment with his mother.
Oh,
I think actually they cut through it, and that was when I started really feeling, because it's for jokes. Oh, look, it's Chris Hemsworth, and he's always gorgeous, and they turn it completely on its head. But I think in the poignant moments where he's like, no, I'm genuinely terrified.
yeah.
I think that I feel enough for it. I know what you mean. It skirts that
I've
line.
got no problem with them playing the thing of he's no longer this ripped guy, because there's memes and memes about just images of Chris Hemsworth as Thor being absolutely ripped, and so it was quite funny seeing him not. I just thought the fat suit basically was played for laughs. And it was played for laughs. It absolutely was. And the whole sequence where he gets introduced again, I didn't find funny. I think the first shot of him is like, okay, Fat Thor, humorous. Oh no, it's really being played for laughs. And because that happens because he's depressed, and I love that, such a great character moment, going from what happened
from
and
that
having
to...
the fact that he missed at the end of Infinity War and carrying that forward, because that could have been a moment that got lost very easily. In the same way, there was nothing, because of how it played out, you didn't get anything from Star-Lord, the fact that he messed things up as well. You didn't get any kind of him looking for redemption or anything. Obviously, maybe that'll happen in the future. Don't think so, but maybe it will. I love the fact that Thor blamed himself because he just missed, and that didn't disappear going into the next film. And I really like that. And so to then have the logical step maybe that he's just let himself go, I get that, but then it's played for laughs, and the thing is continually played for laughs, which I didn't really like.
Yeah, I think I get what you mean, but there wasn't much levity in that film.
No.
It's very dark, and also
I
he's kind of doing that. He's doing that.
I think you've got Rocket's always a comedic character. You've got Tony Stark often being comedic. I think there's plenty of comedic characters in there, and Thor can be comedic, but you don't have to make him comedically fat, and that's what they did.
There's the other part of it as well, that again, these movies aren't necessarily being made for us. Like, it's that kid, like a large part of the audience now is that kid in Captain Marvel saying she's talking about his bum. Like, and I think that a lot of Thor in that moment was kind of like, right, we're nearly an hour into this movie, guys. Like for a little kid watching this, maybe for some of the younger audience, they need something to
dark, yeah.
like recognise and latch onto, and something maybe that, like Rocket and Tony Stark, that kind of humour I think hits on a more mature level, and then Thor kind of undercuts that. Like, he's there to undercut a bit more of that for a bit more of, like, maybe for the younger audiences. So it's serving like I think it's serving on other levels. And the other thing about the fat suit is that I never thought that, like, he's never shamed for being fat. Like, it's funny because it goes against the character that he is, but at no point does anyone go, you're a bit fat, maybe you should work out, and then like he goes into the final battle in exactly the same shape that he started the movie.
I was worried there was going to be a montage where he got back in shape.
So I don't ever think like how he looks and how he behaves, it's clearly communicated that is a symptom of how he feels and what he did not do in the final fight. So I was perfectly fine with that, because he's never shamed for how he looks. He's only ever questioned for how he's let his actions sort of take over himself and be displayed externally like they have. So
and I go like, I've got no problem with the concept of it being a symptom of what his feelings are. I just felt it was played. It didn't go as far as fat shaming, but it was played a little bit too much for laughs. I think the fat suit was that bit over, became comedic. It wasn't just a fat suit to show he's lost. He's not toned.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with him? You know, having that body shape. Like what? I don't understand.
Because I felt it was played for laughs.
Yeah, it was played laughs. Like he was that is a comedic moment, like we called.
But that's the thing. You're laughing at him for being fat, as opposed to having the.
No, I wasn't laughing. I'm not laughing at him for being fat. I was laughing at him for the character that he's become.
Yeah, but you didn't need him to be that overtly comedically fat in order to make that point. Is what I'm saying. I've got no problem with not having him as ripped Thor. That's no problem. I like that. I like that it continued the idea. And don't get me wrong, I love this film. This is just that thing that's niggling in the back of my head that I can't get on board with.
I know what you mean. I think he had to be different enough that there was a proper physical gasp moment when you see him. So he has to be different enough to make a reaction, because with his armour on as well, even if he was just a little bit, chubbier, you wouldn't see it. So he needed a full-on fat suit. And I think there's they make the joke about, I think I would say one of my favourite words then is the Fortnite bit. I found that really funny. And that was more about having let a situation where you feel like you failed or whatever. Now he's kind of in this little, house and they're gaming and don't want anything to do with the outside world. And I found that quite funny. And I know what you mean about if you're thinking if it's just about the fat shaming once it's in your head. It's but I do agree with Sam that it's never ever mentioned because of that. It's more about how he's acting, like how he's holed away up in his house and not coming out, rather than what he looks like.
There's a lovely line where he's having that conversation with his mother, where she says, "You need to stop being who you're supposed to be, and just be who you want to be. Be who you really are." And maybe there's an indication there of him not losing the pounds when he, just gets the hammer again, that actually this is who he is. And when you think of his, for want of a better word, sidekicks, his entourage in Asgard, they're all shapes and sizes and genders and backgrounds and things, and this fact that he doesn't have to live up to being this demigod-esque figure. Correct me if I'm wrong, in lots of the Scandinavian, in terms of the old Norse myths, that I don't think they look like what we see in the comics. They're more like the beer drinking. They're just stocky. They're big. They're basically just big, stocky people. Ironically, I think maybe to some extent he's slowly becoming more of that Norse figure. I think they could have made him just. I don't know. It's tricky because I could say, well, they could just, instead of just adding the pounds, they could have just made him a drunk. But then again, that's almost being facetious about alcoholism. So it's a really tricky one, really. I suppose, and this might be a bit of a cop-out, the fact that they're actually giving him some degree of trauma after it. This is something they've learned from previous comic book movies where the world nearly ends and everyone seems to bounce back in the next film after the Sokovia Accords were put in place with Civil War and stuff. Actually, these things have repercussions, and it depends what happens with the Asgardians of the galaxy, really, and whether they actually linger with that, because he's had this wonderful arc he's had a fantastic arc, and thankfully he's one of the characters continuing on, really. And maybe it is a misstep, but we won't know, I don't think, until we see it when we come out the other end, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it'd be interesting because, like, what that proves is, like, his strength, his worthiness is not defined by his body, and it's all defined by his state of mind, which has been Thor's whole character arc over the whole thing. Like, in the very first Thor, his dad tells him, like, how arrogant and how selfish and how opinionated he is, and that's, like, a detriment to his person, and slowly how that's all, like, chipped away, and it's only until Thor Ragnarok that it's really, like, he finds himself as a person and is able to actually, you know, I don't need to be arrogant, I don't need to be foolish. Like, it's really been him, like, finding himself, and that's why, like, he goes full on, you know, he fully, like, descends into that state after Infinity War, because it's kind of like, well, you know, I was just then, you know, sent to do one thing and I failed. And it's really interesting in the final fight, like, he is always aiming for the head.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And he's not the god of hammers.
And he's not the god of hammers.
Thunder. Okay, what's your unanswered question from the film? Would you say most unanswered question? I don't mean that in a negative way. It could be just something that's really piqued your curiosity. You think, actually,
Mine is, what possible things could Steve Rogers have done to the timeline by staying? I don't know if he's done a lot.
Well, where did he put Mjolnir? That wasn't with him at the end.
Where did he put it?
So where is it?
Maybe the Asgardians have got both. Maybe just in the
He
new
took it with him.
in the new Thor run, he currently has 3. So it's not.
What's the third one?
He has Mjolnir, Stormbreaker, and another one. I can't remember.
just one for basic DIY.
Yeah, just a hammer.
But yeah, he currently has 3 weapons, so it's not out of the realms of possibility that he can just carry both around with him all the time.
But he gave one to Captain America.
Did he give one to
For
Cap?
me, it's
Yeah.
where
And it
did
disappeared.
Loki go?
Yes.
Loki's gone to Disney Plus, where we'll be having loads of adventures with the Tesseract.
But, so don't get me wrong, we'll find out where he went. But it was just like a very throwaway thing of, oh, I love that, yoink, and that's it. No one ever. They just gloss past that and like, okay, we'll just have to find it some other way. But yeah, that's what I'm interested to find out.
There's a moment where he notices something's going on with Iron Man and Ant-Man, and I did think, I wonder if that's maybe a chance for him to possibly survive in the future, because something's changed and he's noticed it.
Yeah.
Which could be quite cool.
My biggest question is that in Captain America Civil War, where you see Peggy Carter on her deathbed and she's wearing a wedding ring, is that the wedding ring that Steve gave her when he married her? So she already knew that she was married to him?
No, because the way the timeline is explained by the Ancient One is that nothing that they do going into the past will ever affect the future. It will just create a new timeline. So that Peggy that you see in the deathbed is from the original main timeline.
Yeah.
So that's what my question about Steve is that because he's gone back, he's created a new timeline. And in the new Far From Home trailer, Spider-Man film, Mysterio suggests that he's from another Earth, so a multiverse. So then, does that mean that Steve Rogers, by creating a timeline, has also created essentially a multiverse, an Earth outside of our Earth, in which he is still and could still be Captain America and could be brought back? If Mysterio's telling the truth, but he's a goddamn liar.
And also, but then how did Captain America also get back to his original time stream that he left?
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, they brought him back to the current one.
Yeah, but that always happened. That always happened. That's the way. It's a bit Jeremy Bearimy how they did the time stuff. But the concept is that no matter what they did. So take the snap, for example, the original snap for Thanos. No matter what they did, taking the time stones away would never have stopped that snap from happening. That always happened. Mm-hmm. So that's why they had to do the snap when they did it, because no matter what they did, like taking the stones out would never stop that future from happening, because that future has already happened. So going back in the past is just so anything they did to change things in the past would just create separate tie lines. It would never half the people missing in the universe in the original main timeline would always happen. All they do is create a separate timeline and a separate, shall we say, universe in which people weren't snapped. But as Doctor Strange said, like, there were 14 million outcomes or whatever it was where Thanos always snapped his fingers and only one, Dan, finger, that they actually won.
And I suppose actually, Sam, yeah, because as soon as he puts the stones back into position, then he can then return to his time stream, can't he then? So once he's put the stones back in position, he goes to meet Peggy and then live out the rest of his life with Peggy, as it were, really. So yeah, that makes sense.
I have to say, I have to hand it to the writers for Endgame, because they managed to spend quite a bit of time explaining time travel in a way that when you're watching it, you feel as though they have explained it. However, in hindsight, you think, you haven't explained it. But in that time, like the scene where they've got kind of Ant-Man and
it's Paul Rudd. It's the magic of Paul Rudd. He makes everything sound completely normal and rational.
When they're talking about it and they're referring to Back to the Future, all that stuff, that conversation, at the end of that conversation, I felt like, yeah, they've explained how time travel works. And then I thought back on it, I'm like, actually, no, they didn't. They just kind of waffled a little bit. And I was swept away and I'm like, yeah, I'll go along with this. And it's just great writing, because it made me think in the moment that I knew what was going on. And actually, they didn't really answer any questions. They just threw in some pop culture references and I got giddy and enjoyed them.
Fun fact, the guy who did the music to Avengers Endgame, Alan Silvestri, did the music to the Back to the Future trilogy.
He did.
Sweet.
It's the kind of they also pulled the trick that they did in Austin Powers, where Basil Exposition is kind of like, nah, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's time travel. You know, what are you going to do?
I was just going to say, just one other thing. I have to say, before Endgame, I did say that I thought this could be where I step off the train, the Marvel train. Having watched Endgame, I now feel even more comfortable stepping off that train.
Really?
That doesn't mean to say I won't watch any more Marvel films, but I don't think I'll have the same level of engagement as I have for this story. It's just too much requirement for me. I can pick it up as I go along if I want to watch more films, but the ending gave me a conclusion that was an entire conclusion, and I don't feel like it made me want to watch more in the same way that other films have, where you have the post-credits. I've seen the trailer for the new Spider-Man. Sounds really interesting. I like where they're going with the idea of the multiverse stuff, and all those ideas sounds fantastic. But I'll watch them as and when I get a chance, as opposed to, I need to see this at the cinema. Who knows? When the films start coming out, maybe things will change, and I'll start seeing them, and actually the story they're telling is fantastic, and the new actors that come in and new characters that come in are really engaging. I don't know. I'm happy stepping off that train now, and I don't feel like I'm missing out.
I think it's a nice wrap up if you are ready to do that. And with me, I'm still like really, really heavily invested in Wakanda, so I'm gonna be there for.
Yeah.
It's one of the best films.
Can you imagine glamping
honestly.
in Wakanda, Alex?
Yeah, let's do that.
It's a classic. But it's that classic comic book thing, and it is what comic books do really, really well. Is because I've jumped on and off comics loads. Like when a particular story arc ends, I'll be like, right, okay, well, this is where I'm jumping off. Like I've had a great time, but you know, either something's not really clicking, or I'm like, I don't know how they can really top that, so I'm happy jumping off, and then I'll jump in again at a later date. Like the comics are great about doing that, and Endgame is probably the most comic-y comic book movie that has ever comicked in all of comicdom.
It's a crossover
it is
event.
Superb. Yeah, it is what all crossovers event are, and they're genuinely designed to, you know, make everyone who is fully invested or has been fully invested for the last 11 years really enjoy and get the most out of having experienced everything that has gone before it. So I don't blame you, but what, you know, is also great about comics is catching up should be, if the writing's done really well and the universe is built really well, super, super easy. So you know you won't be missing out on things in general. But the question I really want to know, what are two questions. Did everyone have a wonderful, comfortable cinematic going experience, which is crucial? I did. I sat in a recliner chair for 3 hours. And 2, what were your Endgame strats? What were your, all right, I don't want to go to the loo, I want to make sure I'm snacked. What were your snack strats for the Endgame?
I have. You mentioned the cinema. I have recently discovered the joy of a fancy cinema. For most of my life, I've gone to your bog standard multiplexes with your normal seats. I've not paid for premiere seating. It's a waste of money. Don't want to do any of that nonsense. However, the last 2 times I've gone to 2 different cinemas, both of them somewhat fancy. I saw Mary Poppins Returns shortly around Christmas, and I went to a cinema where all the seats were big leather recliners with loads of leg room.
Nice.
Like, it was delightful experience, and I had a great old time.
What was that?
What was that?
Glinema.
Glinema.
And also, what that does also as well is I have a genuine phobia. I say genuine phobia. It's not a genuine phobia. I just made up that. It's just a concern. That
A little bit different.
That dialed down quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
it really
Genuine
did. Yeah.
phobia. A little bit of a
Okay,
concern.
I'll upgrade it to a worry. A worry of needing to go to the toilet during a film. And because I'm quite tall, having to stand up and go and block people's view and all that jazz, I just dread the thought of that. So I have a system in place every time when I go to the cinema, I go to the toilet just before the trailers, just after the adverts, just so I can maximise that. Because I want to watch the trailers. It's part of the film for me.
Just severely dehydrated Dan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Take salt.
With the recliner chairs, there's lots of leg room, so I don't have to worry about that because I'm not having to squeeze past people or worry about that, so that's fantastic. Anyway, that was Mary Poppins. For Endgame, I tried to get that cinema, unfortunately got sold out, so the cinema I managed to find was a brand called Everyman. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have been to one of the Everyman cinemas.
Hell yeah.
I'd never been to one of these. I knew it was a bit different, more of a boutique cinema. And I went with my wife, and she had I had to drag her to Endgame, but she came along anyway. And we got there, and you just walk in. It's like a really nice bar, and there's you can buy food, you can buy drinks. You've got board game shelves full of board games you can pick up and play and stuff like that. And then when the film comes around, someone comes out and says, "Okay, the 8:30 showing, come this way." So you walk up to the front, and here's my ticket. She says, "Okay, come with me." She shows me to my seat, and the seat is a sofa. A really comfortable sofa. We were on the front row, so there's loads of leg room. Ha ha ha. So you sit there, and there's just a room. It's a relatively small room, but the screen's nice and big. There's about about 8 or 9 rows just of sofas, a couple of armchairs here and there, and it was a really weird experience. Kind of just me and I've sat on the sofa, so you're not in your own individual chair, kind of boxed in. So we're just kind of relaxing, and it was really nice. And like the temperature in the room was just the perfect kind of warmth, so you're really comfortable, not too hot, not too cold. Just before the film starts, someone comes around, can I get you any drinks? I'll bring drinks out to you. Do you want any food or anything? So you can order drinks there in your seat. And I've never been in a cinema where so many people were there for so long before a film started. Because everyone was just enjoying the experience.
Can I just ask, Dan, is it what I hope it would be? And instead of actually having trailers on a screen, people come out and act them out in the adverts and stuff?
It's not quite that, no. I mean, that would have made the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer somewhat more interesting. Yeah.
You do get the manager come out sometimes, and they introduce the film, though.
Yeah.
Like the captain of a plane.
Actually, brilliantly, we actually had, just before the film started, went through the trailers and all that stuff, and just before it started, someone came to the front and says, "Hi guys, if you need anything during the film, if you need the temperature changed or if there's anything wrong, just come and let us know. We're just outside the door." And they told us, just so you know, there's no end credit sequence, so don't stick around for 15 minutes if you need to go. This was a 8:30 showing. The film was finishing at midnight. I'm glad I didn't stick around for that. No,
You didn't
brilliant.
get the ending.
Oh, Dan, you missed the ending.
I didn't miss the ending.
What? They lied.
It was a perfect end to the Tony Stark side.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Actually, that was one of my questions. What did you guys think of the end?
If I'd stuck around at midnight for that when I'm tired and I was going to be getting up at 6 the next morning with a baby, I don't need to stick around for some clanking.
It was like 60 seconds. It was just right at the end. But
Yeah, but I'd have had to stick through the whole credits.
It's a whole new film, Dan.
I'd already been there for 3 hours.
All that hard work that the people put in.
Yeah, I had to go home.
My bit of prep was this, right? It was going in the morning to check that my tickets I could get them out of the machines and stuff, which is very useful because my local cinema is Northwich Cinema, and I turned up to say, okay, I've tried inputting my tickets to the machine, they're not coming out, and that's when I realised I'd bought tickets for Norwich Cinema.
No.
So yeah, that was a frantic panic, but
well, at least your prep was good enough to go to the cinema early to try and
I
pull
just
the tickets
sensed that
out.
something bad was going to happen, and because they were literally squeezing people in, I've never seen a cinema like it. They were this is a small cinema, relatively speaking, an Odeon cinema, and it was the busiest it's ever been. And because they were desperate to get people in, even though I paid for standard seats, they put us in premiere. And because they literally were cramming people in, I went with my partner who really, really enjoyed it. She'd seen a few of them beforehand, but she'd not seen Infinity War, so I gave her a very quick Wikipedia-esque summary of the plot.
You were that guy acting it out in the front room.
Basically. And yeah, she loved it. And the end afterwards, she's like, yeah, I want to go and I want to see the ones that come before to contextualise it and things. That was my prep. Yeah, go in the morning if it's a really packed cinema and make sure you've paid for the right cinema, and that when you've tried to pay for it on your phone where the screen is not mobile friendly and you think you've picked that cinema but you may have picked something else. That was my little tip. That's how I prepped.
Well, I too went to the Everyman, Dan.
Oh, good.
It's a wonderful cinema. It's funny because the Everyman, there's something about it's quite expensive, but most cinema tickets are nowadays, and it's kind of like it goes back to that. It's an experience thing.
Yeah, it certainly felt more like a night out than I've ever been to the cinema kind of thing. And kind of, if you have to jump out of the film at any point during, you kind of step out and it just feels like you're going into a pub or a bar. You don't feel like you're in the lobby of a cinema, which is usually really sterile and just some people behind a counter selling popcorn. It is an experience and a night out.
Yeah, cool. Definitely. And it's changed. I wouldn't, apart from Cinema Deluxe and Everyman, I just really don't want to go to other cinemas now, just because I get really funny about, not only is it expensive, but I'm one of those people that's quite funny about watching films. I don't like it when people are so that kid in your show, Sam, I probably would have thrown something at him. It's like a
oh, but it was a lovely thing to say.
I bet it was very funny.
You would have stuck your drink where the sun doesn't shine.
But
you're talking about
Speaking of military, nice segue. My lovely partner who isn't here today gave me a code for guard duty. Don't know if you heard about this.
Guard duty?
No.
Guard duty.
Guard duty.
Guard duty.
Guard duty. It is a adventure game, which I'm always up for adventure games, but it's a very new one, and I just wanted to recommend it. It's a nice little, especially, I don't know if, Dan, you find this, that you can't really settle into games for much longer than a couple of hours at the moment with a baby.
Well, yeah, probably for the last 19 months it's been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's not too long.
Is it on PC?
Yes. It's your classic, it's basically a nice little nod to lots of the old school adventure games. So it's you start off as a literal guard who gets drunk and then has to find his armour to start off with, all strewn around town, and you go in a little shop that is largely useless. You don't need any of the items, but I was trying to guess what all the items were from various games. So there's stuff from Discworld and Monkey Island and Sam and Max, and lots of nice little nods. And yeah, I just wanted to recommend that one. Took me about 5 hours. So
that's very nice. And
yeah.
Alex, does it matter if you've not got much experience with adventure games beforehand? Is it kind of predicated in you having a good knowledge of that genre?
No, I would say it's definitely on the side of let's make it so that people can actually finish this adventure game.
So by adventure game,
yeah.
So by adventure game, you kind of mean like you explore an environment, you can't get through a door, but you can see the key through like a hole. So you can't reach the key, so maybe you should pick up something to help you get the key, which will then help you get through the door, which will help you then progress to the next part of the level. That kind of like way of playing.
It's kind of like that. It's a lot less about combining stuff, which a lot of adventure games are. And I'm someone who's finished Discworld like 5 times, and Monkey Island, all them. Like, so I'm used to the very, very hard ones. I mean, Discworld I love, but it's really friggin' annoying. Like, because it's all magical, you have no real world knowledge of being like, well, that would work with that in reality. Whereas...
Yeah, but you say that, but I used to have to call up my local game shop and ask them how to get past certain levels in Curse of Monkey Island.
I have to say,
that's
I've always liked the idea of like these adventure
and that
games.
Wasn't set in the real world.
I like the idea of these adventure games, and for about 25 years, I've tried to play on and off Curse of Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. And for 25 years, I have struggled, and I can't get past like the first hour or something. But I'm convinced one of these times I'm going to play it, and something's going to click, and I'm going to go, oh, now I get it. I'm convinced it's just a puzzle I can't get past, and after I get that puzzle, then I'll be fine. But literally for like 20 odd years.
What you've done there is you've picked not only probably the best adventure game of all time, but the hardest. Like, it is insanely hard. If you like the Monkey Island world, though, Dan, I would recommend the Curse of Monkey Island, which is the third one, which is much easier, and it's probably one of my favourite games ever made. But again, so like you said, Sam, yes, it's in real world, but it's still like it's got voodoo and pirates and weird combinations. So with Guard Duty, it is literally like you have to find, Boots, his helmet, stuff, blah blah blah. You might even see the helmet behind the bar somewhere. So you have to just talk to a few people and then figure that out. Like, it's not this kind of nebulous, I've got to figure out if a chicken stuffed with a meerkat opens the door to whatever. And then there's the kind of...
meerkat.
Oh, that was it. And it's got not just the kind of fairy tale element, there's also a sci-fi part to it as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at images of it. It looks like some kind of pixelated version of like the Nostromo from Alien.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that part as
well. So
well.
if there's no like real obtuseness to the puzzles, then what's the appeal to it then? Are the puzzles quite easy then? If you know that they're like grounded in some sort of reality, so is it like the story that's great?
I'd say that for an adventure game, it's a bit like. Have you played or heard of Bertram Fiddle? That's a really, in terms of adventure games, that one's really easy. It's just you sort of keep tapping through till the characters do what you want. This is a little bit more advanced than that, but I'd just say it's a nice little like 5-hour game that if you really love adventure games, it's a really nice little nostalgia hit, but without it being, because I thought I was going to be stuck there for ages, and that's the worst thing. Just being stuck, never coming back, or if you come back later, you're like, I've forgotten everything, forgotten what I had in my inventory, what was I doing, and then quite often you start again and you're just like, nah, I can't be bothered. But yeah, it was a nice little trip down memory lane, and I'm sure there's references I've missed as well. My slight problem was it did that thing which a lot of adventure games don't do, where you get a few items and then you never use them through the entire game. So they're a bit of a red herring, which is a bit odd. That's the only thing I was a bit like, why have I got this fruit? It's constantly like trying to smush it up against things like, you eat the fruit, no, you have the fruit.
I love that kind of trial and error sometimes that desperation forces you to adopt.
And they account for it, because he always says, why do you think that person would want it? Or I don't think that cow or door would want it, or whatever. So they know that you're going to mush it against everything.
But also in doing that, it tells you, ooh, there is something that will want it. So you hold on to it and give it to every single thing.
It must have been like, maybe it's a secret or something, because I finished the game. So to finish the game, you don't need it. But perhaps there's a little hidden thing, maybe. But what I did find very clever was, right at the beginning, he gets stung by some bees. And the voice actor, just everything you say, it's like, and you have to read the captions underneath to see what he's saying. But he voice acts everything. It's not just like a classic for every single thing. He's saying all the text, no matter what you're looking at, in this kind of stung voice thing. So that was really nice as well. So it's a nice little nice little tidy game that explores with medieval and sci-fi-esque stuff.
Will it be out on the Switch? Is the question.
I wonder, actually.
We will ask ourselves.
But yeah, so Dan, perhaps if you wanted to ever get back into adventure gaming and just wanted a little kind of easy, about 5 hour, a taster, yeah, just to get yourself back in. And then I'd recommend Monkey Island 3, not 2, because it's so hard. It's long.
No, but that also kind of makes me want to play even more.
Now you're like, ugh.
So when Pete's not here, who tells us where we get questions from?
We just have to wait for them to kind of just hit us.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll wait.
At some point, like a piece of paper will be flung at us, one of us, and then whoever that is, they just have to read whatever's on the piece of paper.
Yeah,
I assume that's how Pete does it.
We'll wait. Hang on. Did you guys hear that? Jesus. Oh my God. Jesus, did you guys? They're all coming in, guys. Oh my God. Right. I'm gonna pick up that question.
Don't think you thought this through, did you, Sam?
No, Oh, I don't know. Lisa goes out for one night and comes home. It's like, what happened to all the books? There you go. There's another question. This question I've picked up that has arrived in my house has come from Twitter. So while I pick it up, can someone tell me what the Twitter handle is?
The Twitter handle is @StayingInPod.
Cool. And it's pretty much that everywhere, probably.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, yes, Twitter @StayingInPod, email stayinginpod@gmail.com, or Facebook, or whatevs. So this comes from @Captain Buckers. Thank you very much, Captain. And they say, hey, @StayingInPod, I have a question, which is good. Considering taking the plunge into a new gaming setup, but my question is, Xbox, PlayStation, or PC? Now, I'm assuming he doesn't mean original Xbox, original PlayStation in that.
Or PC is in politically correct.
So even though the new Xbox is rumoured to be called Xbox, because Xbox tweeted just the word Xbox the other day. So apparently that's what it's...
And to be fair, I mean, that's surprising because Microsoft are known for their really straightforward and not at all confusing naming patterns. But
it's the PlayStation's fault that the Xbox 360 was called that, so it's Sony's fault. If you hadn't played a game or owned a gaming PC or whatever, what would you get? What would your advice be, Alix?
Well, I'd probably actually advise PC since you could get best of both worlds, really. But you have to be bothered to kind of get a good PC. Whereas a console, it just all works.
Yeah.
Whereas with a PC...
That's what's always put me off actually doing proper PC gaming. Because obviously, I'm not a big kind of mouse keyboard gamer, so I could use a controller. That's not a problem. You can get them for PC. But it's the work that has to go into setting up a proper good gaming computer. I don't want to have to do that.
Well, now you work no more, Dan, because you can actually now buy subscriptions to high-end PCs, like server farms in France, for like 20, 30 quid a month, depending on what actually you want. And for that, you get a remote access to like a high-end PC on which you can install anything. And as long as your internet speed is good enough, you can remote access that PC from anything. So if you've got a Mac, let's say, you can then play as many PC games as you want through your Mac on that remote PC. And for your subscription costs, as soon as a new graphics card comes out, your PC in France or wherever it is gets updated to the latest graphics card, so it'll always be the latest high end. So I don't think that barrier for PC gaming necessarily exists as it once did. Like, it's only internet, really. Apparently you need like
that. I feel like at the moment, and I'm not saying this would be a factor for much longer, but at the moment I think that's still a factor in terms of a wider audience being able to utilise that kind of service. I don't think the internet is good enough overall, I'm not talking about my specific location where I am, in general, for something like that to be like a legitimate alternative for everyone to a regular console kind of setup, I think.
Yeah, but
that
if you've got fibre and you know
coverage.
you're getting 100 meg no matter what, then
I think if someone was just wanting to know they hadn't gamed for a while, I'd probably go with like have a look at what the exclusives are. Not that really exists anymore. It's sort of exclusive for like a month, isn't it? And then goes to everything. But I'd have a look at like what
for Sony,
what the games are that you really like, and then buy the console that's has all them on it.
Because I started working with someone quite recently, and I was talking to her about kind of games because she plays a lot of games. And what games she played, and kind of I realised that all the games that I was either playing or looking forward to playing, even though I didn't necessarily realise it, they were all PlayStation exclusives. I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I wanted to play Spider-Man and Gears and God of War and Detroit New Human, and all these games that I was playing or looking forward to playing were all exclusives. I only realised that because she was an Xbox gamer. And so she was like, yeah, I can't play that. I can't play that one either. Yeah, I don't know that game. Because just not in there. For me, I look at the exclusives of Sony and I think those are all my favourite games. All the Naughty Dog stuff like, I've not played it yet, stuff like God of War, Spider-Man, incredibly well reviewed. Really looking forward to playing those kind of games. I did actually look at some of the exclusives for Xbox, so I just thought, chances are there's probably loads of exclusives that I'm just not aware of. And I looked at them, and there are exclusives, absolutely. You've got the likes of the Forza games and the Halo games, and I had the original Xbox and the 360, and I'm a huge Halo fan. But looking at kind of the type of exclusives that are on Microsoft at the moment, for me, personally, Halo's the only one that really interests me. Gears of War, I enjoyed, but it's not going to make me buy a console for it, so it depends on what you're looking for in terms of a game.
And the other consideration is Xbox exclusives don't really exist because of the promise that all Xbox games are available on PC. So...
the Halo collection is going to come out, which I'm super looking forward to. So that's PC, that's everything remastered, everything chronologically from Reach all the way to beyond. So I think I'd say PC if you want like a load of games, which someone just getting back into gaming might be a bit like, oh, there's so many, what do I do? If you can have the right, speed for all your internet and you can be bothered with all the friggin' graphics cards, that is a great way to go long term. But I'd say with consoles, it's just plug and play. However, our PS4 recently has decided that right when I'm doing something really difficult, it just spits the disc out. So that's a fun little bug.
Does it determine that you were struggling and says, you know what?
Yeah.
Alix needs a break. So
just leave it.
Yeah. Maybe try something different here. You have the disc back. Let's find something new.
I don't like that taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Red Dead Redemption. It does not like the flavour of that.
Is it like if you failed a mission 3 times, it says, no, you're done, spit out?
It was almost like that. I was getting to the point where I was like, I'm never going to complete this because it would just spit it out. So there's that. But then with computers, there's a whole load of other problems. I've literally just had to have a whole palaver with my laptop, which got that 100% disk usage bug, thanks Microsoft.
Right.
Which means it basically makes it unusable. It slows down the more you use it. So I had to crack out the hard drive, and it's a laptop as well. Stick an SSD in, make a USB bootable ISO, put that in, make sure that the laptop...
You're not selling the ease of PC usage here.
Well, exactly, that's what I mean. Short-term, consoles are way better. You don't have any of that But long-term, PCs are better once you get over that crap. Or at least I thought I was over that crap, and there's almost always something goes wrong. But then my PS4's messing up as well. So nothing, don't buy anything.
If you were stranded in a cave, you'd totally make an iron suit from nothing, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, I would.
That was Staying In with Alix Brixham, Daniel Frost, Sam Turner and myself, Kris Darby. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to leave a review too, we'd be really chuffed to bits. And thank you again for those who have left reviews. It really does mean a lot to us. For those of you who want to get fit and do so for a good cause, it is still not too late to come and join our team. Just head over to your app store and download the app Charity Miles for your mobile telephone. And look for us in the app at #StayingInPod. That's all one word. Our team name is #StayingInPod. At the moment, we've made $755 for charity, which is fantastic, which is well on our way to our target of $1,000. But don't worry, even if we reach that target, we're not going to rest there. If I know Pete, and trust me, I do, he'll probably want us to double it by December. So just bear that in mind. So the more members we can get joining our team, the more money we can raise for charity. And the better we can feel because we're helping each other. So anyway, until the next episode, thank you again for listening. Thank you for reviewing. And if you have done so, thank you for joining our team. Bye.